and sped up the production of seed heads, which yields lower quality grain. Combined with tariffs and higher prices for fertilizer and fuel, longtime wheat farmers say it's not going to be a good year. The U.S. Department of Agriculture estimates production is down 21% from last year. Wheat growers will see their smallest crop since 1972. I'm Jennifer King.
The U.S. military says it boarded an Iranian-flagged commercial oil tanker in the Gulf of Oman that was suspected of trying to violate the American blockade. U.S. Central Command said Wednesday on social media that the MT Celestial Sea was searched and redirected after being suspected of trying to head to an Iranian port. On Wall Street, a good day as the Dow was up by 645 points. The Nasdaq rose 399. The S&P 500 advanced 79. Oil dropping below $99 a gallon. More at townhall.com.
The following is a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
When I was feeling the stress of too much credit card debt, I looked at two different options: debt settlement and debt management. They may sound the same, but guess what? They're not. Debt settlement seemed like a quick fix, but I found out it would destroy my credit, create tax headaches, and hit me with huge fees. They actually told me to stop paying my bills. No way, not me. Then I turned to a debt management plan developed by the team at Trinity. They worked with my creditors, lowered my payments, reduced my interest, saved me thousands, and paid off my debt. And Trinity is a Christian company, which is important to me.
If credit card debt has you down, call Trinity at 1-800-990-6976.
My name is Heather. Please forget debt settlement and remember Trinity Debt Management.
1-800-990-6976.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Partly to mostly cloudy skies and cool again overnight with a low down to 55 degrees. We're staying dry, though, despite mostly cloudy skies. Kind of broken clouds. There'll be some peaks of sun at times on Thursday. It won't be overcast, but a high of 71 degrees, just a touch warmer. And then Friday's the day we get into a chance of showers. Late morning through the afternoon to early evening, a chance for some scattered rain, about a 60% chance with a high of 69 for a cool day. It warms up as we head into the weekend with a chance for a few showers and storms at times over your Memorial Day weekend, but highs near 80. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Business owners, download your free playbook for financial clarity at SerenityWealthBiz.com. That's SerenityWealthBiz.com.
Tired of settling for generic fishing gear? Say hello to Bullseye Bait and Tackle, O'Fallon's one-stop shop for serious anglers. Live bait, premium tackle, rods, reels, and an unbeatable selection of lures from top brands like Megabass, Zoom, and Berkley. Whether you're after bass, catfish, crappie, or bluegill, they've got the gear to help you land the big one. Plus, their expert team, led by Mark and Liz, provides rod and reel repair services. Bullseye Bait and Tackle, 266 Fort Zumwalt Square, or at bullseyebaitandtackle.net.
Tony Colombo here for All Solutions Pest Control, the team Christine and I trust to protect our home. We've used multiple services at multiple homes over the years, and I can tell you from all that experience, All Solutions is second to none. If you have a pest problem of any kind, or more importantly, just want to prevent a problem, All Solutions is the team to call. Learn more and take advantage of their incredible $67 introductory offer right now at allsolutionspestcontrol.com.
If a pest-free home is your goal, call All Solutions Pest Control.
No big old corporate lib AM station telling us what to say here. Conservative talk for St. Louis. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
These storms have done a number, I know, on all of our yards and trees and bushes. I mean, the rain's great, but the storms can sometimes wreak havoc. Are you worried about some of your most prized assets, your trees? Well, then call Hanson's Tree Service. Look them up online. The number that you can reach them at 24/7, emergency or during business hours, same number, is at hansonstree.com. That's hansonstree.com. Tim Jones here to tell you all about how awesome Hanson's is. Chad Hanson has a fantastic locally owned, family-owned, independently owned business here. They've got organic mulch. This is a perfect time to spruce up, fortify, and beautify your landscape beds. Tree care. You know, we had that big cicada invasion, a year or two ago. I've got a tree that, man, I hope we can save it. If anybody can, Hanson's can. I got to get them out to the house to check it out. Last year, had a tree that we had to take down, unfortunately, but cleaned it all up. It was like it was never there, and we planted some other stuff in its place. Hanson's can help you at the lake of the Ozarks. Yep, they can help you in that entire region down there for your lake lot, and, of course, all over the St. Charles, St. Louis metro area and beyond. Grinding and land clearing, green waste recycling, residential tree services, tree and stump removal, pruning, and so much more. Call the folks with the big boy and big girl toys at Hanson's Tree Service. That's hansonstree.com, hansonstree.com.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now. They just cheat at any cost to win elections.
Nobody stands up. These people are crazy. I'm telling you, they're crazy.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
President Trump's revenge campaign against his top Republican critics again paying off, with Congressman Thomas Massie, a frequent critic of the president, losing his primary race to Trump-backed challenger Ed Galrein.
I want to thank President Trump for his support.
Massie offering his concession.
There is a yearning in this country for somebody who will vote for principles over party.
Massie infuriated the president by pushing for the release of the Jeffrey Epstein files and opposing the war in Iran.
Thomas Massie's a terrible congressman.
4:07, and welcome into the May 20th Wednesday edition of the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. Boy, have we got a lot of news to cover with you today. We have a lot of guests as well. But before we get started, if you're watching on the stream, of course, you see our great executive producer Joey V there on the wheels of steel. But if you look in his normal spot, Tim Jones is not here today. He is on, I think as they call it in the media business, on assignment. And that voice that you hear, that laugh that you hear that voice every Friday, every Monday through Friday here after our show. The one and only Larry the Legend Connors. How are you, sir?
I'm honored to be invited to sit in this chair, Mr. Speaker's chair. I feel really, really special.
You got a gavel with you?
I do. And a 45 and a 9mm. And
there you go. There you go. Larry, I got to tell you, before we get started, what a thrill and an honor this is for me to have you sit in and co-host the show with me. This is another one of those full circle moments for me. A couple of weeks ago, Senator Jim Talent sat in that chair. I used to work for Jim Talent, 23 years ago. It's hard to believe that it's been that long. So that's a full circle moment for me. This is a full circle moment for me to be co-hosting the show with a local broadcast legend, Larry Connors. I don't want you to feel old because we both have birthdays coming up at the end of the month.
Yeah, that's true. But I'm glad you made note of that.
But
well,
wow.
I remember, Chris, the first time I interviewed you, we were at another station, and I just started Larry Connors USA. And you came in, that would have been, we're looking at 2014.
Was that long ago?
Yes, it was, yeah.
You haven't aged a bit,
I haven't either. Oh, you said you.
You haven't aged a bit.
I was already protecting my turf.
So, Larry Connors, I have dubbed you because, we promote your show after this. And we always promote the story behind the story. And when I look at some of the headlines that you're going to talk about or the story behind the story, I've dubbed you the most interesting man in the world because some of the stories that you have told, you've lived a very, very interesting life, sir.
Let's drink to that.
Let's do it. Let's do that about 6:05.
Oh.
And then you'll be on the air. We can't do that.
I thought we could do it right now.
We cannot do that.
All
right, let's get into the big issues today. Of course, last night was primary election night across the country. The election that everybody was watching was the primary election in Kentucky. Thomas Massie, I think he's a 4-time congressman, lost his re-election bid last night. A lot of folks, especially the media, are dubbing this the president's revenge tour. Last 2 weeks, he's 3-0. He took out Senate Republicans in Indiana. He took out Senator Bill Cassidy last Saturday. And now today, last night, Bill Massey is on the scrap heap of history now, a soon-to-be former congressman. I know you have some thoughts on all of this.
Well, first of all, he's also got his eye on Texas primary next week.
Yes, forgot about that.
And has got Paxton already lined up to beat Cornyn. This seat, the Massey seat, Trump had called him the worst Republican congressman in history. And there was about $30+ million spent on a congressional race.
The highest primary ever spent.
And a lot of it did come from various PACs, including Israeli PACs, because Massey, in their view, had never done anything for them and was often against them. And that was a very key point. And a lot of people just then, and when Massey made his concession statement to his audience last night, he said, I was a little late getting here because it took me a time to track down my opponent that did win. I conceded, but it took time to track him down in Tel Aviv, suggesting that he's already in Tel Aviv, Israel, working to get more money for Israel from the U.S. Congress. It was a real slur and a slander. And then he followed it. But we always continue to run a good, clean campaign.
Yeah, I thought that was ironic, too, when he said that. And I got to tell you, I really didn't have a dog in this fight. Look, I said on my Chris's Corner yesterday, I've been in politics for 30 years, so I understand revenge tours. I know that politicians have big egos. They have very long memories. They don't forget things. President Trump is not a career politician, but he's a politician now that he's been president for 2 terms. So I understand the wanting to get back at people that you feel that are not on your side. My Chris's Corner talked about there's a history of this, that FDR during his term, when there were conservative Democrats that weren't in favor of the New Deal, he primaried them. He did all he could to make sure that they lost their elections. One of our guys, Texas born and raised, LBJ,
I was just going to bring him up.
He was known for retribution. He has a very famous saying where he said, I'd rather have somebody inside the tent pissing in instead of outside the tent pissing in. You have another example in the late 70s when Ted Kennedy ran against a sitting president, Jimmy Carter. So this is nothing new. I think the only thing that is new about this is that usually this type of stuff is done behind the scenes and within the corridors of power. President Trump is a lot more open on naming his enemies and taking them out.
It's theatrical drama every step of the way, and yet you can also look at how things can change if you get your way.
Yeah.
Little Hands Rubio, Secretary of State, involved in the Kennedy assassination, Ted Cruz.
Yeah.
All of these people that he called out in the primary when he was running against them, they all stand beside him now.
Yeah.
And rightly so. There is one thing, since I brought up Cruz. If we see an opening coming up on the Supreme Court, which I think we might well be seeing that happen, I really wish he would put up Ted Cruz for the Supreme Court. I think Ted Cruz could do more for our nation from that position than any other moving forward.
I got to tell you, Larry, as someone who worked on Ted Cruz's presidential campaign in 2016 and did a couple of bus tours with him in Iowa and in South Carolina, Ted Cruz is a very ambitious man.
Yes.
He is young. He's in his 50s. And I don't think something like that would interest him because it would take him out of politics. He'd be on the Supreme Court for the next 30 or 40 years.
But what a legal mind to have there that is a constitutionalist.
He wants to be president.
I know.
And there were reports a couple of weeks that came out. All of his people said that this was fake news, but some people reported that the president CEO of Newsmax, Christopher Ruddy, that came out that Christopher Ruddy would endorse him for 2028. So knowing Ted Cruz the way that I do, not personally, of course, but working for him and following his career since he hit the big stage in 2012 during the Tea Party movement, I think he's got his eye on the White House instead of the Supreme Court.
You know, I just wrapped up watching a Netflix series called Franklin. With Benjamin Franklin, and it focuses on the almost 10 years when our first Congress sent him over to France to get France to join us in the fighting against the British.
Right.
There's a lot of French flair and drama and so forth in it, but it's a very telling story that I don't think a lot of folks have been aware that how much we were trying to get the French to work with us, and then Franklin turned around and did a deal with the British.
Yeah. Did they talk about in that Franklin series how Benjamin Franklin, even though he was an older gentleman, was known as kind of a ladies' man and like the ladies?
Oh, they play that up. They play that up. I mean, he's got all these young things around him, and he's grasping at all of them.
Yeah. One of the other people that the president took out last Saturday, of course, was Bill Cassidy of Louisiana.
Right.
Tom Tillis, he is the senator from North Carolina who decided not to run because he had got underneath the president's skin as well. I'm worried, and I want to ask you, are you worried? Look, these are great victories for the president personally. He wanted to get rid of these people, and he did. But, these guys now don't have anything to lose. Tillis and Bill Cassidy, the president needs to get some of his agenda passed before
they've got another 8 months.
Yeah, before the midterms.
Yeah,
these people could throw a real monkey wrench within the president's agenda. Tom Tillis has said that there are certain Senate conferees that he's not going to vote for. Bill Cassidy, he became the 50th vote yesterday on the Senate War Powers Resolution. He voted onto that. Are you worried that the agenda now could be maybe hurt because these senators' feelings are hurt and they don't have anything to lose now?
I don't think it's going to come to that. I could be off, but of course I want to make sure we get a greater strength in the House. Yeah. But you also keep in mind when you're looking at the Senate, you got John Fetterman sitting in there. Yeah. And that's another Republican vote when you get down to it.
Another concern that I have, too, look, Thomas Massie, I didn't agree with his Israel stance as someone who traveled to Israel twice last year, as someone who was there and had to go to bomb shelters, when Iran was sending missiles over there. And I understand what the Israeli people go through with the barrage of missiles and terrorist attacks and all of that. I was very disappointed in his Tel Aviv attack on the guy that beat him. I wasn't a big fan of that. But here's where I'm going with that. Thomas Massie lost pretty decisively yesterday,
10 points.
But he has a lot of support among the libertarian, conservative base, people that are conservatives that were supporters of President Trump but now aren't supporters because of the war in Iran, and they feel he has broken other promises. My concern is, look, we're going to need all the votes that we can in November to keep the House and keep the Senate. Are you afraid that some of these people may stay home because people that supported Massie and
I keep pushing the fact that even if every poll shows you that Trump is going to win and sweep everything, make sure you get out and vote. I've got John LaBoutiere, the Reaganite, never Trumper.
I can't never say his name.
I've got him scheduled for tonight, our first hour, and we've already had discussions about the elections as they went last night, and his view is that Trump is losing a lot of the base. He's talking about the independents,
right?
The youth vote, and of course you keep seeing reports surface that he's using the Latino vote. I don't know where they're getting that Latino vote number like that unless they're talking to anyone who speaks Spanish of any type, because he continues to gain with most of them. And of course, if you look at it from the Biden way, the Latinx, if that's what they want to call them.
Whatever that means.
Yeah, whatever it meant. I mean, no Latino I know has ever gone along with that. But John LaBoutiere will be probably making a point that Trump is going to be on the ropes dealing with exactly what you were saying, trying to get anything done, basically calling him a lame-term president going forward, a lame duck, regardless of what happens with the midterm now. And I don't know that I'll buy that.
Got to take a turn. You are a born and raised Texan. I am a Texan. I was born in Texas. My parents are born and raised in Texas. The president endorsed Ken Paxton, the embattled, as some would say, Attorney General of Texas. The Democrats are salivating because that is the person that they feel that they can beat him. We know that if Texas ever goes blue, Republicans will never win a presidential election again.
You're right on point there, and that's the problem. There are pockets of blue, San Antonio, Austin, El Paso. That gave growth to Baden when he ran, and they're still there, and they're growing. That is true. But I just don't think I think the Trump coattails will still carry Texas.
And supporters have said that, you shouldn't be worried about Ken Paxton. He's won several statewide elections.
Yep.
He can do it this time again. So you're not worried that Tallarico, who is a real wackadoodle, may make this a closer race.
Your phrase right there. Your phrase right there says everything about why I think he will not.
All right, that is Larry Connors. You hear him, of course, after our show, Larry Connors USA. He's going to stick around for the rest of the show. We've got a huge guest. We've got Zack Smith. He's a senior legal fellow at the Heritage Foundation. He's up next. We'll have Chris's Corner. I'm going to talk about the redistricting case, how I think black people are being a little, the sky is falling when it comes to redistricting and black representation. I'll have a commentary on that. 5:06, we'll speak with Mitch Baden. He is the CEO of Royal Banks. They've got something they want to promote, and that is real men wear pink. Larry, I know you wear a lot of pink, so
yeah,
this
I
is
do.
Nothing.
And I've had my bout with cancer as well. So.
And I have as well. And at 5:23, we'll speak with the Lieutenant Governor, Dave Wasinger. We'll talk about Mizzou hiring more H-1B foreigners and his big issue of getting Senate cameras into the Missouri Senate. We'll have all that coming up next on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Partly to mostly cloudy skies and cool again overnight with low down to 55 degrees. We're staying dry, though, despite mostly cloudy skies. Kind of broken clouds. There'll be some peaks of sun at times on Thursday. It won't be overcast, but a high of 71 degrees, just a touch warmer. And then Friday's the day we get into a chance of showers. Late morning through the afternoon to early evening, a chance for some scattered rain, about a 60% chance with a high of 69 for a cool day. It warms up as we head into the weekend with a chance for a few showers and storms at times over your Memorial Day weekend, but highs near 80. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Hey everyone, it's Todd Showalter with my buddy Joey V. Be sure to join me and Joey for the Right Mind Show, where we put the fun in our dysfunctional world. Saturdays at 5, right here at 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
Well, it just keeps raining, doesn't it? Tim Jones here to tell you that if you're worried about your roof, have no fear. Correll Roofing Company is here. They're at CorrellRoofingCo.com. On the internets. That's CORRELL, 2 R's, 2 L's, CorrellRoofingCo.com. Our new favorite roofing company here on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. Curtis Correll, over 20 years of experience. Let me tell you about this company. They are fantastic. Why? Well, 3 major items, and then there's lots more after that. They're locally owned. They're independently owned. They're family owned. They're wonderful people. They've got so much experience, and they know exactly what they are doing and then some. I wouldn't have some fly-by-night company hopping up on my roof. I would only have Correll Roofing Company up there, CorrellRoofingCo.com. They're going to advocate for you from start to finish. They are going to be with you for the entire process, working with your insurance company to make sure they get your roof back to where it needs to be. One of the most important aspects of your homestead is your roof. Only put the experts up on there at Correll Roofing Company. CorrellRoofingCo.com. That's CorrellRoofingCo.com, your one-stop roofing shop.
Mother's Day is almost here, and Anthony's Produce has everything you need to make it special. We're blooming this season with locally grown flowers, gorgeous hanging baskets, colorful bedding plants, and stunning flowering pots. Plus, our huge selection of rare tropical plants is sure to impress. And don't forget Mom's sweet side. Treat her to a fresh fruit bouquet or indulgent chocolate-covered strawberries. Our shelves are stocked with the best produce in town, too. Anthony's Produce. Open 7 days a week, 7 to 5 on Jungerman Road or at anthonysproduce.com.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-478-6430 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-478-6430. That's 800-478-6430. What do you have to lose? Call 800-478-6430. Again, 800-478-6430.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
I want to ask you about that $1.8 billion fund set up, weaponization fund as it's being called. Why should taxpayers be paying to settle a $10 billion lawsuit that was brought by the President of the United States? And should people that attacked the Capitol building and assaulted police officers, should they be eligible?
This is about compensating Americans for the lawfare that we saw under the last administration. And by the way, anybody can apply for it. I mean, if Hunter Biden wants to apply for this particular fund, he is welcome to.
Oh, it's all perfectly legal.
You are out of order! You're out of order! You're out of order! The whole trial is out of order!
Zack Smith, legal fellow with the Heritage Foundation.
You know, I ask you a lot of predictions. Can you predict what the Supreme Court probably will do with this action?
And as he does every Wednesday, Zack Smith, senior legal fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Zack, I got to tell you, we missed you last week, my friend.
Well, I miss being with you guys as well, and it's good to be back with you this afternoon.
Zack, my first question that I have regarding this 1776 fund, it's a very simple question. Is this legal? And I am hearing some of the critics of this are concerned because they say that if they do sue, it'll be hard to determine who has standing to sue. Give us the details on this.
Well, I haven't been following this story as closely as many others in the media have. But look, I think this idea that the government was weaponized against many conservatives, against many people who dared to buck the party line during the Biden administration, did suffer real harm and real damages. And I think, unfortunately, the feeling is that many of those individuals have not been adequately compensated for the harm, the damage that occurred to them and their families as a result of this weaponization of government. So this is the Trump administration's effort, one of their efforts to help fix that problem, fix that perception and that reality that many of these families, many of these individuals have suffered greatly. So, look, I have no doubt whatever happens, litigation will ensue as a result of this fund. And we'll have to wait and see what the courts decide to do.
Zack, I don't want you to get nervous here. I forgot to let you know that in studio with me is local broadcast legend Larry Connors. I think you have been on his show a couple of times. He is sitting in for Tim today.
Well, it's a good thing you didn't tell me, Chris. I know Larry's been on his show before, but I always get nervous when I'm on with a legend.
Yeah, well, I put you on a fast force march. One thing you said you haven't been following the way it's been treated in the media. I'll tell you what, the legacy media, they're broadcasting big, bold headlines. Trump helps his allies. It's nothing about helps Americans who became the victims of this weaponization. And yes, people like General Flynn, look at what he lost, what Rudy Giuliani's been through, all of these people. But it's all Americans who got targeted by a weaponized Department of Justice overseen by Biden and run by mealy-mouthed Merrick Garland.
Well, and I know this will shock you, Larry, but this is yet another example of the double standard of the mainstream media. You know, one of the things I criticized the Obama administration for, and it was continued under the Biden administration, DOJ essentially had a slush fund that was being administered by Kamala Harris allies, by Obama allies, paying off essentially many of their biggest supporters through these sue and settle procedures. And yet at the same time, you didn't hear this same type of outcry occurring.
You didn't hear their allies are making money. That's what the supposed storyline is from the legacy media.
Right.
We're speaking with Zack Smith, Senior Legal Fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Zack, as you know, the end of the court term will be upon us. There's a few big cases yet still to be decided: the birthright citizenship, Fed independence, FTC removal power, and temporary protected status. Do you think we're going to receive all of these cases at once, or are they going to be kind of one at a time until the end of the court term? And give us an overview of these cases. And as I ask you all the time, and you always refuse, can you give us a prediction on these cases?
Yeah, but you keep trying.
I do. One of these days. One of these days.
You're going to slip it past me one day, and I'm going to just give a prediction. But look, we're certainly running out of runway in terms of the court's term. They have a little over a month left to get these decisions out the door if they want to hit their goal of ending the term at the end of June, certainly before the 4th of July celebrations, typically what the justices aim for. And yes, what the justices decide in these cases are going to be earth-shattering, regardless of what they decide. It is going to fundamentally shape or reshape our political landscape. Obviously, the birthright citizenship case, or whether the Trump administration's actions to limit the issuance of passports, to limit certain benefits to those who are born to whose parents are American citizens or whose parents are here on a permanent basis. Whatever the court decides, that's going to be a very impactful, very monumental decision. And then, of course, on the removal decisions as well, that is going to fundamentally determine whether any president of either the Republican, Democratic, Independent, what have you, whether any president can hire or fire whom he or she pleases, or whether essentially there are these so-called independent agencies that can continue to exercise executive power in a very problematic way. So these are big cases. There's a lot left to cover, and buckle up. Things are going to start happening very quickly, I suspect.
May I ask, how far do you consider that question from where we've seen the court rule already on the Chevron case and getting rid of the regs that were imposed?
Yeah, so obviously the Chevron case, essentially they were no longer going to give deference. What they did in that case, they said courts shouldn't give deference to the interpretation that federal agencies, the EPA, the IRS, these other executive branch agencies, courts shouldn't defer to them on what the law means or what even their own rules and regulations mean. It's up to courts to decide what the law requires. And so I think certainly you saw in that instance federal courts asserting their own independence, saying this is our prerogative, this is our duty under the Constitution to review the laws, determine what the law requires. Similarly, I think you've seen under President Trump a reassertion of executive authority, saying that the Constitution grants me, Donald J. Trump, or any president, the executive power of the United States, and it grants the president alone that power.
Do you equate that view to the Chevron ruling, which we've already seen from the court?
Well, I think certainly what the Chevron ruling did, perhaps, is take a little bit of power away from the executive branch, correctly, I think, because I think too often Congress and the courts had deferred to the executive branch in making rules and regulations and then interpreting those rules and regulations, often in very favorable ways to the government. But what you've seen President Trump doing, he's taking back some of that power that Congress and the courts have tried to strip from the executive branch. So I'll give a quick example. The Federal Trade Commission, one of the cases at the Supreme Court right now, Congress created a statute saying that federal trade commissioners, even though they're appointed by the president, confirmed by the Senate, they have what's known as for-cause removal protections, meaning that the commissioners Joe Biden appointed, President Trump can't remove them under the statute that Congress passed, even if he disagrees with them. And what President Trump is saying correctly, I think, is that that's unconstitutional. They are exercising executive branch power, meaning ultimately they have to be answerable to me, the president, under the Constitution.
Zack, for the first time since 2019, Supreme Court justices may testify on Capitol Hill. The House Appropriations Committee's Financial Services and General Government panel are asking for the justices to testify. How rare is this? Is a 7-year absence? Is that usually something that happens? And what do you expect with the justices possibly testifying?
Well, I will say, Chris, who knows what can happen? The crystal ball is cloudy, and I suspect that may be some of the hesitancy for justices to go to the Hill and testify. Look, it's not common for sitting justices to appear on the Hill and testify, but it's not unheard of either. And in this particular case, the justices are being asked to come and testify about budgetary requests that the court system has made, the federal court system has made. And in particular, one of the issues where the court has asked for a lot more money than they have in years past is to help enhance judicial security. Obviously, the Supreme Court justices are facing unprecedented threats, meaning that the Marshal Service, the Supreme Court police are having to put in place, unprecedented resources to protect the justices and their families. But you're also seeing that among the lower federal courts as well. Federal district court judges are facing threats. So keep in mind that several years ago, we saw one judge in New Jersey, someone who didn't like the way she had ruled, showed up at her house, shot her husband, killed her son when her son answered the door. A tragic situation. And so you're really seeing judges facing many, many threats today. Now, unfortunately, I think many on the left have tried to politicize that, have tried to say that Donald Trump is somehow to blame for this, but that's just not true. They often forget that Chuck Schumer stood on the steps of the Supreme Court saying that Kavanaugh, Gorsuch will feel the whirlwind if they don't rule a particular way. But that is why they're being asked to go to the Hill and testify about their budgetary request and specifically their request for increased security funding.
Chris, can I borrow your crystal ball for a moment?
Go for it.
I want to put this crystal ball, I'm going to take Chris's ball and pull it in front of you. We all remember how Obama was trying to walk Ruth Bader Ginsburg out of the Supreme Court so he could make another nomination when he still had control. Trump holding the Senate, I see going through the rest of his term. Who do you see maybe stepping up and deciding, I'll get out of the way so, Mr. President, you can name your own Supreme Court justice? And that would make, the sixth that he's been able to name?
Well, Larry, I don't know if Chris's crystal ball is any clearer than mine. I think it may be even a little more cloudy, to be honest. But look, you're certainly hearing retirement rumors for Justice Samuel Alito, Justice Clarence Thomas. Now, those have died down in recent weeks. Justice Thomas recently became the second longest serving Supreme Court justice in American history, right behind Justice Bill Douglas, who was a terrible Supreme Court justice in a lot of ways. And Justice Thomas has about 2 more years to serve before he would become the longest serving justice in American history. And some are suspecting he really wants to make that milestone, particularly given the contentious nature of his confirmation, particularly given the criticisms. And then Justice Alito, Justice Alito, he has done yeoman's work in the past few years with the Dobbs opinion, the Calais opinion, obviously. And I think Justice Alito, some are speculating he might be more open to retirement than Justice Thomas right now. But keep in mind, Larry, Justice Alito is really at the height of his power right now in terms of being on the court. He is able to shape coalitions among conservative justices like really no other justice on the court is able to do. And so at the end of the day, losing either Justice Thomas or Justice Alito is going to be a big loss for the court. The last point I'll very quickly make, if I can, in terms of just the real politics situation, one of the wild cards I think that a lot of people are watching now is what happens even though Republicans control the Senate through the midterms at least. You now have Bill Cassidy out of Louisiana, who's looks like he's going to lose his bid for re-election. You now have John Cornyn out of Texas, who President Trump has endorsed Ken Paxton over Cornyn. And so there's some questions whether, out of spite or out of trying to show their independence or what have you, whether some of these senators might now oppose nominees that they wouldn't have opposed just a few weeks ago.
Zack, 2 of our local Congress people, Wesley Bell and Ann Wagner, they have co-sponsored a bill called the St. Louis Postal Accountability and Reform Act. The bill is aimed at forcing the Postal Service to report on chronic mail and delays and delivery failures here in St. Louis. There was a recent Supreme Court decision, the U.S. Postal Service versus Conan, that was a dispute over mishandled mail. And in a 5-4 majority decision, Clarence Thomas explained that the Postal Service was protected from lawsuits over lost or miscarried mail. Give us your thoughts on that, sir.
Well, I'm not familiar with this law that's been put forward, but I will say, Chris, I'm familiar with Wesley Bell from his time as the circuit attorney there right outside of St. Louis. Generally not supportive of his policy, but I suppose even a broken clock can be right twice a day. But look, I think everyone recognizes the Postal Service is facing very real problems, and so I think the idea that there needs to be more oversight, more accountability, that should be something that should garner bipartisan support.
What do you know about this particular case, though, the Postal Service versus Conan? How can the Postal Service not be responsible for mishandling or mishandled mail?
Well, the little bit I know, I haven't done a deep dive in it, but generally speaking, the government has what's known as sovereign immunity from what we think of as tort claims. So if you, if you run into me with your car, Chris, ordinarily I could sue you. If you caused damage to me, broke my leg, caused me to have surgery, totaled my car, what have you, I could sue you to recover my damages, to be made whole. Sovereign immunity says that generally, if a government employee, someone working on behalf of the government, like a postal worker who's driving a postal mail truck, generally can't be sued. The government can't be held liable. Now, in certain very narrow instances, the government has waived that sovereign immunity. And the way they typically have done that is through a statute known as the Federal Tort Claims Act. But that is very narrow waiver. The general default rule is that the government can't be sued. And so really, the little bit I'm familiar with this case essentially deals with that waiver of sovereign immunity, how broad it is, how narrow it is in the Federal Tort Claims Act when it comes to the Postal Service and failing to deliver mail.
Zach, if they take this away, there goes my excuse. The check is in the mail.
Always get the tracking number, Larry.
Maybe we need to privatize.
Yeah, exactly. Well, go ahead, Zach.
Well, I was just going to say, and my other piece of advice: if you see a postal truck driving down the road, always steer clear. Take a wide turn. So.
And that is Zack Smith, Senior Legal Fellow at the Heritage Foundation on X. He's at TZ Smith and heritage.org. Zach, thank you as always for your legal mind, sir, and we'll speak with you again next Wednesday.
Looking forward to it. Good to be with you.
Thank you. Larry, great questions. You got a future in this media business,
I'm
sir.
still working on it. You know what? I tell everyone, they ask, you don't do a lot of local politics in your program. I say, I throw a wider net, but I said, there is no way I can follow Chris Arps and Tim Jones and be on top of the local issues as much as they are, that you guys have it nailed down. I said, it'd be stupid for me to try, first of all, and I didn't want to start repeating what you guys have done. You do such a great job of it every afternoon.
Larry, thank you for that compliment, and your check is in the mail.
Yeah.
I'll
better get lost.
All right. Chris's Corner, we're going to talk about black representation. Doesn't require racial gerrymandering. I'll have that commentary next on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show with Larry Connors, substituting for our friend Tim Jones on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Partly to mostly cloudy skies and cool again overnight with low down to 55 degrees. We're staying dry, though, despite mostly cloudy skies. Kind of broken clouds. There'll be some peaks of sun at times on Thursday. It won't be overcast, but a high of 71 degrees, just a touch warmer. And then Friday's the day we're getting to a chance of showers late morning through the afternoon to early evening. A chance for some scattered rain, about a 60% chance with a high of 69 for a cool day. It warms up as we head into the weekend with a chance for a few showers and storms at times over your Memorial Day weekend, but highs near 80. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Live and local.
Listen to what those local folks are telling you.
News Talk STL.
Hey, let me tell you about a place I don't just endorse. I actually go there myself. It's called the Dental Link. The good doctors over there, Dr. Link and his son Andrew, they run it. And I tell you, right away, you can tell it's different. It doesn't feel like one of those cold clinical offices. It feels like a place where people actually enjoy working there, and that matters when somebody's working on your mouth. I noticed that immediately. The staff is relaxed, they're professional, they're friendly, and that all starts with how Dr. Link treats his team. You can just tell. Now, for me, this is personal. I've had dental implants done there, and that's not a small thing. That's serious dental work. And they walk me through the whole process step by step, no pressure, no confusion, just straight answers and making sure I was comfortable the whole time. If you've been putting something like that off because you're nervous, I get it, but here's what you should know. They offer many dental implants, which are less invasive, quicker recovery, and a lot less discomfort than traditional route. I'll tell you this, Getting my implants done was a game changer. They look natural, they feel natural, and honestly, it gave me a level of confidence back I didn't even realize I was missing. If you've been thinking about dental implants or any dental work, just go talk to them. The Dental Link is in Baldwin, right there at 141 and Manchester, or you can give them a call at 636-496-8584, or check them out at thedentallink.com, thedentallink.com. Do good, do it well, have fun doing it. That's their motto.
Ever feel like just a number in a waiting room? Hi, I'm Shannon Tribue, Director of Operations with Body of Health Direct Primary Care. Navigating the medical system can be a maze of stress. I'm your personal guide at Body of Health. I handle the messy parts of medical care, the logistics and complex coordination both in and outside our walls, so you and Dr. Tobler, that's my dad, can focus on what matters most, your health. At Body of Health, you're not just a patient, you're part of the family, because that's healthcare the way it ought to be. To learn more, schedule a discovery call at bodyofhealth.com.
Hey, it's Vic Porcelli. We're sitting here with our great friend, Chris Cooper. Hi, Chris.
What's going on, Vic? How are you?
I hear you wrote another book. This one's an e-book. Is that right?
The Business Owner's Playbook for Financial Clarity. So it is a great book for entrepreneurs. It's a very short guide. Give people, business owners, the ability to understand key questions that are important, such as succession planning, legacy planning, getting the IRS out of our pockets, right? Because do you like paying taxes?
I do not.
I don't think anybody likes paying taxes, right? That just makes sense. And then always talking about protection. And then the other thing from a business owner perspective, what is the biggest asset a business owner has? Probably their business itself, right? We need to make sure we understand what the value of that business is as well.
So this new book, I'm sure, is incredibly expensive, right? How much?
No, it's a free resource.
Oh, it's free.
We provide guidance, we provide education, because we want to make sure people feel educated and understanding, because sometimes you don't know what questions to ask, and we need to make sure we help arm people with information to ask the right question.
Reach out to Chris and Stacy today at SerenityWealthNow.com.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC.
On the next
Larry Connors, USA.
The story behind the story. May 2011, a major outbreak of tornadoes. Hardest hit, Joplin.
Larry Connors, USA. Now, weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL. Chris's Corner, brought to you by STL Windows and Doors, locally owned and operated in Earth City. Dropping truth bombs and making you think. It's the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show.
The NAACP is now urging black student athletes to boycott athletic programs at public universities in states that are pushing maps that the group says restrict black voting rights. The group's president says Republican-led southern states are seeking to reinstitute a sharecropping reality by recruiting black athletic talent to play for flagship universities while limiting black voters' ability to elect candidates of their choice.
Chris.
And if you don't know, now you know.
And now, Chris's Corner.
For decades, Americans were told that black political representation could only exist if politicians carved up congressional districts by race. We were told that without race-based maps, black voters would lose their voice entirely. Now, even liberal political analysts are admitting something conservatives and many independent-minded black Americans have been saying for years. That simply isn't true. The New York Times analysis looked at what would happen if congressional districts across the South were drawn using neutral standards, compact districts, respecting county lines, city boundaries, and traditional map-making rules without racial engineering. And what did they find? Many of the same black opportunity districts would still exist naturally. Why? Because black voters are not randomly scattered across the South. In many cities and metro areas, communities are already geographically concentrated enough to influence elections without government racial sorting. Look at Memphis. After the Supreme Court weakened part of the Voting Rights Act, Tennessee dismantled a majority black congressional district centered around Memphis. Critics immediately claimed black representation was being erased. But according to thousands of computer simulations cited in the article, over 99% of neutral maps still created a heavily black district around Shelby County naturally, without race ever being considered. Same thing in Birmingham. The old model relied on stretching a district from Birmingham through Alabama's Black Belt using explicitly race-conscious mapping. But neutral simulations still frequently created a district where black voters would strongly influence the outcome because Jefferson County itself is heavily black and heavily Democratic. Now here's the bigger point. This completely destroys the argument that black voters can only succeed politically through racial gerrymandering. And frankly, that argument has always been insulting. It assumes black voters are politically helpless without government-designed racial protection zones. It assumes black candidates can only win black districts. And it assumes white voters won't support black candidates unless the maps are engineered to force the outcome. That's not empowerment. That's political dependency. America has changed. Today, black conservatives represent predominantly white audiences every single day in media, business, and politics. Tim Scott won statewide in South Carolina. Byron Donalds represents a diverse Southwest Florida district. Wesley Hunt won in suburban Texas. And even here in Missouri, voters routinely support black conservatives on radio, television, and in public life based on ideas, not skin color. That's the future. The real threat to voters isn't neutral maps. It's partisan politicians manipulating districts for political power, whether they do it in the name of race or party. And here's what's ironic. Neutral maps could actually create more politically competitive districts where black Republicans and independent black voices can emerge instead of locking black political power almost exclusively inside safe Democratic seats. Because when districts are designed around race first, the political outcome is usually predetermined before anybody votes. That's not democracy thriving. That's political sorting. Black voters do not need racial engineering to matter politically, and black Americans do not need to be politically quarantined into government-designed districts to have a voice in America. And that is Chris's Corner.
My applause. Once again, a well-thought-out and very perceptive piece. Black voters will vote for whichever candidate, just like white voters will.
Exactly.
Obama had 97% of the black vote. He didn't get all of it.
Yeah.
And 42% of the white voted for him. And as you well know, Jesse Jackson's granddaughter has been complaining about what they're trying to do in Chicago, saying, you're just trying to create race baiting again. She said, I've been voting since 18, and I've never had a problem. And we can get IDs. We can still vote.
Yeah. You know, the thing is, I think what they're fearful more of anything is what I mentioned here in Chris's Corner, is that I think you're going to end up electing more black conservatives to the House and to the Senate when these districts are done away with, because white voters have shown over the last 20, 30 years they will vote for a black candidate that aligns with their values. And I think that's where people are. And I think that relying on 1960s solutions for 2026 is outdated. And I think a lot of race hustlers and the alphabet groups, NAACP, Urban League, all of them, they depend on racism. They depend on fear-mongering to keep themselves in power. And that's what I think it's ultimately comes down to.
I fully agree with it. Well, as I said, again, well stated in Chris's Corner.
Thank you. And, too, we heard that clip where black leaders are urging top college recruits not to attend some of these schools in the South. So you're going to tell a guy that lives in the hood that this is his opportunity to get out of the hood, buy his mama a big house, take care of his family, that we don't want you going, even if Alabama, Georgia, Florida State, if they recruit you, we don't want you going to those colleges.
And they believe that they have the power that, as they have been, they're taking the black vote for granted.
Yeah.
We'll come around and pick you up on Election Day, take you to the polls, and then we'll take you back to the urban plantation.
Yeah. I remember one time I was at Microsoft had an opening for one of their centers at the Galleria, and they brought in Marshall Faulk as a person, to bring people out there and everything. And that's when there was a lot of talk about, football ending because of all the head injuries and all that. And I asked Marshall Faulk about that. I was like, do you see the end of football coming because of this rush to end it because of head injuries? And he said, no, I don't see that, because look at me. I came up in a inner city in Louisiana, New Orleans. This was my chance out. Yeah. And I think you're going to have a lot of black athletes that this is their chance out, playing football, basketball, or whatever. And football is not going to end because of that, because it creates economic opportunities for them. And I don't think that top high school recruits, if Alabama, Florida, or Georgia wants to recruit them, I think that's going to go in one ear and out the other if these groups want them not to go there. You're messing up their economic opportunities.
And I think the other part that's out there that's going to affect all these kids, we're ruining college sports with the new portals that have been set up, because kids get 1 or 2 years in college and the coach can't build a team for the future because suddenly they're yanked away to go play professional for X dollars. And if they don't take it, they might not be able to get it later if they get hurt playing.
I mean, maybe I'm old school, Larry, probably, but I just think now that these college players can be paid. It's not athletic. It's not amateur sports anymore.
Yeah,
I mean,
and I've always been in favor they get something because the school makes a lot of money off it. But you couldn't even have an alumni pay your way to go see your grandmother for her birthday or whatever, Thanksgiving, because that was a violation of rules. So they need middle ground. But now these $8-10 million contracts being put in front of kids, you don't need a college education if you got that, right?
Exactly. I mean, I looked up one time the top NIL players in football, and I was just mesmerized and astounded by the amounts of money that some of these players are making. Some of these players are like Archie Manning's son down there in Texas. He's making like $7 or $8 million a year. I mean, he may make more in college than he makes in the NFL, or even he may not even make it to the NFL.
And the colleges are making all that money as well.
Yeah.
So they don't have to be charging students all the high fees to be in a school class either.
So what's the middle ground? I mean, should these players be making millions of dollars? Where do you see the middle ground of what they should be paid?
I would say that they're not eligible for the portal, should not be eligible until they're midway through their senior year. And they can sell merch, things of that nature, but you got to give the kids something because you're making money on their back as it is.
Yeah, I agree. All right, it is 4:56. We're going to speak with, at 5:06, Mitch Baden. He is the CEO of Royal Banks of Missouri. We're going to talk about the American Cancer Society's Men Wear Pink. We'll also ask him some economic news. Mitch is kind of our resident economic and banking person. We'll talk to him about that. And we'll have David Wasinger. Of course, he's the Lieutenant Governor of Missouri. We'll ask him to grade this year's Missouri legislative session, and we'll talk about one of his core issues is bringing cameras into the Missouri Senate. All that is coming up next with Larry Connors in studio sitting in for Tim. You're listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Hey, Jamie Allman here for my favorite go-to store for seafood, gourmet goodness, and tons of wine. It's Stars, 1135 South Big Bend. A huge selection of seafood flown in from the coast. Lemon sole, halibut, Maryland lump crab, Gulf shrimp, and you gotta try the trout dip. Plus, imported and domestic hand-cut cheeses, lots of hand-picked wines at great prices, hard-to-find gourmet foods, and fresh roasted coffee using only the best quality beans. Stars, 1135 South Big Bend, just off of Highway 40.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss of Safe Bunny Radio as part of our lineup each week. Doug has been a staple on the St. Louis radio airways for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. You can now hear Doug and Safe Bunny Radio every weekend on News Talk STL. But in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeBunnyRadio.com. What else do our listeners need to know, Doug?
Simply put, I focus on helping pre-retirees and retirees build, preserve, and protect retirement assets, and I've been helping my clients solve their insurance and financial needs for the past 33 years. I also strive to educate my clients on how to prepare for retirement, minimize the impact of market volatility on their assets, and deal with the challenges of increased longevity. Call me today at 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233.
Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP. Member FINRA and SIPC.
Hey, this is Chris Arps. If you enjoy a good cigar like I do, check out Dorset Cigar at 11396 Dorset Road in Maryland Heights. They'll help you find the perfect smoke, and they have a fantastic premium selection. Mention promo code NewsTalkSTL for 7% off. Visit DorsetCigar.com.
News, analysis, opinion. This is News Talk STL. HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at NewsTalkSTL.com.
News this hour from Town Hall. I'm Keith Peters in Washington. The wind-driven Sandy fire continues to burn in the hills above Simi Valley, about 30 miles northwest of Los Angeles. Ventura County Fire Department spokesman Andrew Dowd says 750 firefighters are battling the Sandy fire.
Firefighters were challenged initially by rapid fire growth in windy conditions. Sadly, we did have one home that we've confirmed has been destroyed, and while that is only one home, it is the home that belonged to the family that lived here for many years, and a tragic loss for that family.
The fire is 15% contained as of this morning. With primary elections taking place in 6 states Tuesday, many eyes were on a Kentucky House race.
I have called and conceded the race.
Republican Congressman Thomas Massey has criticized the Iran war, pushed for the release of the Jeffrey Epstein files, and voted against President Trump's big tax bill last year, repeatedly drawing comments like this Tuesday.
Thomas Massey's a terrible congressman. He's been a terrible congressman from day one.
And a Trump-backed primary challenger, Ed Galrine.
I want to thank President Trump for his support, his endorsement, and his counsel.
Massey, the latest Republican lawmaker to lose after being declared disloyal by the president. I'm Ben Thomas.
Federal prosecutors have announced charges against former Cuban President Raul Castro in the 1996 downing of civilian planes operated by Miami-based exiles. The announcement was made Wednesday as the Trump administration escalated pressure on the socialist government. On Wall Street, the Dow up by 645 points, the Nasdaq rose 399, the S&P 500 advanced 79. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Joe Fallon did something smart. He saved hundreds on auto insurance switching to Progressive. With that money, he commissioned a portrait of himself. Does Joe already know what he looks like? Yes. Do guests know what he looks like? Also yes. But not as art. It's Joe's savings, and if he wants to spend it on a velvet painting of himself with a white tiger at his feet, we say, roar, Joe, roar. Switch and see if you could save with Progressive and treat yourself. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Spring cleaning isn't just for your house, it's for your life. If your job is getting old, it's time to clear the clutter and spring into IT. Go to My Computer Career.
My Computer Career helped me get the skills and certifications I needed to start a new life as an IT professional in months, not years.
Earn the certifications the top employers are looking for right now. Visit mycomputercareer.edu and take the free career evaluation to see if it's time to spring into IT. Financial aid is available to those who qualify.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Partly to mostly cloudy skies and cool again overnight with low down to 55 degrees. We're staying dry, though, despite mostly cloudy skies. Kind of broken clouds. There'll be some peaks of sun at times on Thursday. It won't be overcast, but a high of 71 degrees, just a touch warmer. And then Friday's the day we're getting to a chance of showers late morning through the afternoon to early evening. A chance for some scattered rain, about a 60% chance with a high of 69 for a cool day. It warms up as we head into the weekend with a chance for a few showers and storms at times over your Memorial Day weekend, but highs near 80. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
License number GL250000615.
Hey, Dad, what causes drains to clog?
Grease, hair, soap scum, and tree roots.
Tree roots?
This town has old pipes and big trees. They find each other.
They grow inside pipes?
They bust into pipes.
Whoa.
Once they're in, the water stops flowing.
Can we fix it?
The big green grasser machine can fix any clog.
Green is always grasser at GrasserHomeservices.com.
Hey, Jamie Ullman here for Window World. Did you know that Window World offers a lifetime warranty that covers all parts, glass breakage, and labor? They are one of the only 2 replacement windows with the Good Housekeeping seal of approval. Window World St. Louis has been owned and operated by a group of born and raised St. Louis residents for more than 23 years, and now Window World is offering 36 months, same as cash financing with approved credit. Call them today, 800-GET-WINDOWS for a free in-home, no-pressure estimate. That's Window World at 800-GET-WINDOWS.
All the information I need on the drive to work.
Mike Ferguson in the morning. I keep it on throughout the day, whether it's local, national, or something big that's happening overseas.
News, analysis, and opinion.
St. Louis is #1 for conservative talk.
News Talk STL.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now. They just cheat at any cost to win elections.
Nobody stands up. These people are crazy. I'm telling you, they're crazy.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are bringing the United States of America back, and it's starting right here in the great state of Missouri. You ask yourself, how is it that we shocked economists' expectations and we added 123,000 jobs just last month? How is it that we've seen our construction workers and our manufacturers benefit from this great American economic recovery? And it's simple. We decided to put American businesses and, most importantly, American workers first for a change.
5:06 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arp show, and the vice president was in Kansas City yesterday talking about economic news. And on the line with us is Mitch Baden. He is the CEO of Royal Banks of Missouri. Mitch, how are you today, my friend?
Doing well, Chris. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. And we have a legend in studio with me, Larry Connor, so he will be questioning you as well, sir.
I look forward to it, sir. Glad to have a chance to visit with you.
Mitch, before we get into banking news and economic news, I first want to talk about the charity that your bank is involved with. It's American Cancer Society's Men Wear Pink. I want to talk to you about that campaign. And I think I may have found you an ambassador in Mr. Larry Connors. Maybe he'll wear pink.
Well, Chris, it's an honor this second year in a row that I've been asked to chair this event. It's a wonderful fundraiser and, candidly, really community service in terms of trying to get the word out for breast cancer and breast cancer awareness. In the month of October, we all wear pink, a bunch of ambassadors. Last year, we had over 40 men wearing pink. You know, most people think that breast cancer is just in a woman, but that's not true. I had a dear friend of mine pass away last year from breast cancer. He was diagnosed and died in less than 4 months. So, you know, typical guy didn't go take a look at the doctor and find what was going on. But we do a fundraiser, and we have ambassadors who reach out to friends, family, and associates to try to raise money for a really great cause. The funds stay here in St. Louis with the American Cancer Society here, and it's a terrific program, and I'm thrilled to be associated with it again.
Mitch, Larry Connors here. I don't know of anyone who does not have, if they have not had cancer themselves, that they don't have a family member or at least a friend who has been touched by some cancer in some way.
Yeah, Larry, unfortunately, I think that's right. I am a 2-time cancer survivor myself, so I understand what the treatments are like. I understand what the fear is like, but I think we're so blessed. The science in the medical community has so much improved, and especially with breast cancer, all cancers, but especially breast cancer, that there's a significant chance if you catch it early, you're going to survive it. So but you're right. Too many people are afflicted with this and affects so many families.
Speaking with Mitch Baden, CEO of Royal Banks of Missouri. Mitch, not to put you on the spot, but do you have any figures or numbers on how many men contract breast cancer every year? Just how prevalent is this?
No, I don't have a specific number. I think the word that I want to get out, Chris, is just that it's not just a disease that affects women. Men contract it too, and we need to be sensitive to our bodies as well. But I think if we go out to the American Cancer website, I could find that information. Maybe the next time we're together, I'll give it to you. Man, you're asking me tough questions.
I'm sorry.
That's why I love you, man.
All right. Larry, you got a question?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, and then you look beyond breast cancer. You look at skin cancers, and for men, prostate cancer, and colon cancer, and all these things. And you made a point a moment ago, early detection. That makes a world of difference for many. In fact, a life or death difference.
Well, I think Chris can speak to that about it as well as anybody. But you're right. I was saved by the fact that my wife made me go, and I went to a doctor and didn't expect to hear what I heard. But fortunately, science has improved, and I survived something that 40 years ago, you wouldn't have.
I've had the same thing. I'm talking about prostate cancer for myself. I know that's what Chris has been talking about, but I'm glad you listened to your wife, and I'm sure she's driving that point home. And if you ask for any information on how to get somewhere, I'm sure she'll give you that as well.
Larry, if she's on the line, she's listening. She's probably out there saying he doesn't listen enough.
I've got to say also, I'm glad that I listened to my wife, and she urged me to go to the doctor. I hadn't been to the doctor since I was 15 years old.
Are you kidding me?
At 15 years old, she said, I feel I'm not going to have a long life with you, and I finally made the appointment, and thank God I did because
that's great.
Detected that I had early prostate cancer.
Well done,
so,
Becky.
well, good
Chris,
for the wives.
Chris, Becky's a saint just to put up with you.
She is.
Robin is a saint to put up with
true.
me.
She is.
That is true.
Mitch, Royal Banks has been with us almost from the beginning, and we're so proud to have you and Royal Bank as a partner of the News Talk STL and the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. The bank is growing once again. You're opening up a couple of new branches. Tell us where those branches are.
Well, a couple of things. First of all, we love partnering with the show, but we're also partner with the station. We love to call you guys a client, and we're glad that you are. And we want to do everything we can to support the station. We're excited. We've been investing in our franchise for the better part of 9 years now. We just built a brand new corporate headquarters in University City. We're renovating our office in St. Louis Hills. I got a great story someday to tell you about that when the time permits. But we're opening 2 new offices, one in Glen Carbon, where we're actually moving our Belleville office to Glen Carbon. It's only about a mile away, but it's a much bigger space for us, and so we're excited about it. And then we're going to be in South County. We have lots of clients in South County, but we've never had a branch there. So we're actually going to open up a branch there too. So we're filling in to our footprint so that we can better serve our clients. We're a community bank, and a community bank needs to be in neighborhoods, and that's what we're trying to do.
And where do the home mortgage rates stand right now with what we've been through and what you see on the near term?
Oh, man. Chris told me that I ruined his day the last time that I talked about mortgage rates.
He did.
Larry, mortgage rates are high right now compared to where they were before. They're in the 6s. They're high, but not as high as they've been in the past. And candidly, this is more of a traditional rate. So when Chris asked me that question, when are they going to come down? I really don't think we're going to see rates come down for long-term rates for a while. Most people think, Chris and I were just talking about this, that the Fed affects long-term interest rates, and candidly, they really don't. Investors truly dictate the long-term rates, because that's what they're competing against.
That's
they're
the
either
faith in the
investing
market.
stock, right. It's either the stock market or institutional investments. And let's be candid, rates are high today because we have so much of our national debt that's maturing, and so it has to be an attractive rate for people to hold the debt.
Are you saying we won't see CDs back in the 1820s?
Well, I remember those days.
Yeah.
There was a bank in town that called the CD that they were promoting the prime rate CD, and prime rate was at 21% at one point.
Yeah. I didn't have the money to buy them.
Unfortunately, in that economy, I don't think anybody did. But no, I don't think you're going to see rates go up. There's a lot of comment at the beginning of the year we're going to see 2, maybe 3 rate increases, but I think Fed futures now are talking about maybe no increases, and then some people are thinking with inflation there might be actually an increase, but I can't see that with this new Fed chair.
Mitch, the St. Louis Fed President Alberto Busalam said that inflation remains a major concern while the broader economy stays resilient. Look into your crystal ball. What do you see regarding inflation and the economy?
Well, I think that, so much of inflation right now is being impacted by the war in the Middle East. Even though we're in a ceasefire, oil is not flowing. So I think once that opens up, I think we'll see some improvement. But the problem is, and Chris, you and I've talked about this just very recently, inputs for farmers are very expensive because so much of the things that they need, diesel fuel, fertilizer, those things are all from petroleum. And until we get that price down, I think the impact's going to impact us at the grocery store as well. But I do think if the war does end quickly, I think we'll see inflation move down. And if it doesn't, we're going to see a pretty big shift in the election, I fear.
Mitch, the Kevin Warsh era has begun. President Trump publicly is going to swear in new Fed Chair Kevin Warsh. That is a highly unusual move. A lot of people are worried that Mr. Warsh will not be an independent voice and will take direction from the president when it comes to interest rates. How worried are you and the banking community at large worried about his independence?
Well, I'll be candid. I don't believe that that's going to be the case. Kevin was always very independent when he was on the board before. He was a very active governor. I think his private investment history and employment really suits him well for the job. And I think, like any circumstance where you're talking about the Fed during a presidency, the president has the right to select who the person he's comfortable with. And let's be candid. The former chair, Mr. Powell, was a Trump appointee. Many people thought the same thing about him, and he certainly was not in Trump's back pocket. I don't see that happening. I think the Fed will stay independent.
If I may interject, sir, I think he wants someone who's like him, business-centered. And I know you have sometimes some conflict between the business and the American needs and so forth, but if you're centering your effort on business, you are also helping the farmer, and you're helping every element of society. I tend to think that's where he's going to be looking. Am I wrong?
No, I think you're absolutely right. I think, the Fed has a very difficult job. They have to deal with unemployment. They have to deal with inflation. Those two things are not controlled by the same tools. And I think the Fed really wants to grow the economy. So does the president. So does any president. Doesn't matter which party is. You want your economy to be strong. And I think especially in an election year like we have today, the economy is going to be really important to how people vote. I think the Fed I hope will be a little more aggressive in their decisions, because I think the biggest problem the Fed has had is that they've been reactionary and they've been behind the activities that they needed to take place. They were too slow in raising rates. They were too slow in moving rates down when they raised them down, and then when they did, they moved them too quickly in both directions.
Yep.
Mitch, during my preparation for show prep today, I read that regional banks and community banks have posted stronger than expected first quarter earnings in 2026. How's Royal Banks doing?
I'm glad you asked that question. I don't want to give a commercial to other company, but I think bank earnings are very strong. We had our best first quarter in the history of our company. We're 62 years old. And like most community banks, the first quarter is the most difficult because you have a short month in February. But also loans tend to slow down a little bit because you have a big pickup in the fourth quarter for people paying real estate and their personal property taxes, and then you have the IRS taxes that they're saving for. So there's not a lot of lending activity. But we had a terrific quarter. I think bank margins are holding up, and that's helping things because rates have been stable. And all banks, not just community banks, need stable rates to be able to maintain that margin. You know, Chris, you've heard me say this before. If most borrowers came in and asked me to lend them money and they told me they were going to make 4% on their money or less, I'd say no to that loan. But that's a great year for a bank.
Excellent.
Well,
go ahead,
to that extent, if that does raise a question: are we seeing the American public be more conservative with their money, and all the concerns and fears about inflation? As you said, and I agree with, the Fed was too slow to react either way, and then knee-jerk too hard when it did.
Well, I think consumer spending is still strong. Consumer sentiment is still strong, even though there's this fear in the Middle East. I think the issue, though, is that I get concerned about is that how much of this is being done on debt. You know, we have a lot of people that are getting much larger tax returns because of the big bill that was passed by the Congress. And so when that money dries up, that'll be really interesting to see what happens to the consumer spending at this point. But it's really, really important that the consumers stay focused on what is good for that particular family, because whether we like it or not, we live in a consumer-based society, especially economically right now, and that's what's going to drive us. The consumer is going to drive us more than anything. Consumption is very strong right now.
Mitch, before we let you go, how would people go about supporting American Cancer Society's Men Wear Pink campaign?
Well, you can first of all call our bank 314-212-1500, and we'll set you up with all the information, or you can go out to our website. It'll be out there tomorrow on how to reach out and connect with the American Cancer Society. And that website is royalbanksofmo.com, royalbanks.mo.com.
And as I said, Larry Connors has a whole wardrobe of pink, so he's ready to go.
I fully support what you're doing, sir, and we wish you the very best in that endeavor.
Well, thank you. And Chris, thanks so much for giving us the time to talk about this. It's a great mission, something that we need to really fight for, to try to get the money so that we can get some really good not only word out for people so that there's knowledge, but also the funds to be able to continue to do research.
And that is Mitch Baden, CEO of Royal Banks of Missouri. Mitch, thank you as always for your time today, and thank you for lunch today. I appreciate it.
Good. Yeah, when you started to talk about show prep, I thought maybe we were talking about lunch.
No. Mitch, have a great day, and wish you all this luck and all the success for the American Cancer Society's Men Wear Pink campaign.
Well, we appreciate your help, and Larry, you're welcome to join us anytime.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you, Mitch. And coming up, we're going to speak with David Wasinger. Of course, he is Lieutenant Governor of Missouri. We'll get his report card on this year's Missouri legislative session, and we'll ask him about his pet project, cameras in the Missouri State Senate. You're listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Follow Chris Arps on Twitter at Chris_Arps. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Partly to mostly cloudy skies and cool again overnight with low down to 55 degrees. We're staying dry, though, despite mostly cloudy skies. Kind of broken clouds. There'll be some peaks of sun at times on Thursday. It won't be overcast, but a high of 71 degrees, just a touch warmer. And then Friday's the day we get into a chance of showers. Late morning through the afternoon to early evening, a chance for some scattered rain, about a 60% chance with a high of 69 for a cool day. It warms up as we head into the weekend with a chance for a few showers and storms at times over your Memorial Day weekend, but highs near 80. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
News, analysis, opinion. News Talk STL.
You know what your one-stop shop is for all the aches and pains that you may have? Yes, Comprehensive Chiropractic. Comprehensive Chiropractic and Sports Performance, the premier chiropractic and sports performance facility in the region. How do I know? Because I have personally been a patient for nearly 2 decades. Doctors Fader and Gorman and Benton, they're so awesome. They have helped me on so many occasions recover from all sorts of day-to-day aches and pains, from acute injuries, chronic injuries, things that just develop with age, things that develop with different habits or different things you're involved in. They can help people of all shapes, sizes, colors, creeds, codes, and ages. My daughters, who are both athletes, have used Comprehensive Chiropractic, so has my wife, many of my family members, my neighbors, and so much more, because they're just that good. They can also help you get in shape and stay in shape. They've got the studio upstairs. It's a health and wellness center, Pilates, yoga classes with experienced instructors. They have the licensed massage therapists, and they have the personal trainers. It is very affordable, very reasonable. They'll work with your schedule. They can help you with anything that may be aching or paining your neck, your joints. They can also help you with your diet. Yes, holistic types of supplements and all sorts of advice there to make sure that what you're putting in your body is the right kinds of stuff. Comprehensive Chiropractic and Sports Performance, from stem to stern, they are the best in the land. They're at cchiropractic.com. They're at cchiropractic.com for all your comprehensive healthcare needs.
Tony Colombo here for Gutter Pros and Exteriors, your all-in-one service team that brings years of experience and quality that's affordable right to your doorstep. Christine and I discovered Gutter Pros and Exteriors when we bought our home and inherited a gutter problem. And they've also repaired siding damage on our home because along with gutter repair, gutter installation, and leaf protection, the Gutter Pros team are also the best for repairing other exterior damage, including fascia, soffit, and all siding repair and installation. Learn about all the ways Gutter Pros and Exteriors can help your home or business right now at gutterpros.com.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. Tim Jones and Chris Arps, driving the leftist crazy all afternoon.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are bringing the United States of America back, and it's starting right here in the great state of Missouri.
I think we can agree that this session was productive and resulted in a monumental win for many Missourians. I also want to thank members of my cabinet, legislative and policy team, and the countless people behind the scenes that nobody gets to know are working, that have worked to get our priorities across the finish line. We have a great team here in the governor's office that work very well with our legislative leaders, and I'm grateful for those folks as well. And to every member of the 103rd General Assembly, Republicans and Democrats, members of the House and Senate, thank you for their work to the people of Missouri.
528 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show with Larry the Legend Connor sitting in for my good friend Tim Jones today.
And honored.
And on the line with us is Missouri's Lieutenant Governor David Wasinger. Lieutenant Governor, how are you, sir?
Hey, Chris and Larry, I'm doing great. I'm getting ready to head to a Missouri Right to Life event out in St. Charles County. Riley Gaines, the NCAA swimmer, is going to be out there, and I think they're expecting over 1,000 people. So
I think I just saw one of our owners, Joe Rush, just walk out, all dressed up.
I didn't know that was today. I know we've been
promoting
it.
Out there in a few minutes.
Yep.
I forgot that was today. We've been promoting it the last few weeks, so that's
Comes
a
up
great
in a hurry.
event. Great event. Lieutenant Governor, I hate to put you on the spot, and I'm sure you know this. What number are you, Lieutenant Governor? Are you the 48th, 49th?
49.
49. Oh, I guess that.
49th Lieutenant Governor.
Excellent, excellent. All right, I know the legislative session ended last Friday, and you, of course, preside over the Senate as your role as Lieutenant Governor. What would you grade this year's Missouri legislative session?
Well, Chris, I've been asked this, and the grade I would give it is an incomplete. You know, you don't finish a class, and here's the reason why: is a lot of the stuff the legislature passed, income tax redistricting, initiative petition reform, several of these things need to go on the ballot and be approved by the voters. So until that's done, in December of this year, we'll know whether or not it's successful. But there are several items that came out of the state legislature that still need to be approved by the Missouri voters. And those are the big ticket items that came out of the state legislature. And that includes Amendment 3, which I'm going to promote, where we turn back into a pro-life state.
Mm-hmm.
I went through the legislature, but it'll be on the ballot this year. So really it's an incomplete, and we'll see how the rest of the year plays out.
The one sure thing is we're going to see a lot of outside money pouring in on each of those campaigns.
I think that's right, Larry. I think there's going to be tens of millions of dollars spent. It's a little bit of an odd election year because it happens once every 12 years that you don't have a U.S. Senate candidate. So there's no U.S. Senate race in Missouri. The only statewide is the state auditor, which doesn't get quite as much attention as a U.S. Senate race. But we have these monumental issues that are going to be on the ballot. So, educating your listeners and getting the word out on this pro-life initiative, on these other redistricting, on this initiative petition reform, on these, very, very important issues is just crucial.
Lieutenant Governor, do we know yet which ballot Amendment 3 will be on August or November, and which one would you prefer?
Well, that's a great question. And I met with Governor Kehoe, who I think has to make that decision. I don't know if it's by the end of this week, certainly in the relatively near future. I met with him last week, and there's so much on the ballot, Chris, I think he was struggling with the permutations. You have redistrict, you've got income tax, you've got the Amendment 3. Do you put these on an August ballot or November ballot? As of last Tuesday, I think he was still struggling with that issue. I haven't talked to him this week, but he may have made a decision. But it's really, there's so much on the ballot on these, again, very, very big issues. I think there are a lot of permutations they're trying to evaluate.
Do you think the fact that putting in front of the voters in one way sounds that's the way it should be done, full transparent, or does it also say the legislators failed to do their job? They should have taken a firm stand on it and gone forward.
Well, Larry, I think you're spot on. I think a lot of this, we're digging ourselves out of the hole. Initiative petition reform should have been done years ago by the Missouri supermajority of the Republicans. We turned from a pro-life state into a pro-abortion state. Yeah. If you recall, a couple of years ago, they messed things up in the Missouri State Senate and allowed this to go forward. So a lot of this, we're just digging out of the hole. As I describe it, our Missouri Constitution is morphed into something the size of a holy Bible. We have online gaming or gambling in the Constitution. We have marijuana. Whether you're for or against these, they should be legislative creatures and not, in the Missouri Constitution. So because the legislature hasn't been getting its job done, it ends up in the Constitution, and it's very difficult to go back in and amend the Constitution. And that's what some of these initiatives are doing, is the abortion being one of them.
Lieutenant Governor of Missouri, David Wasinger, is on the line with us. Lieutenant Governor, one of the issues that you have pushed for strongly ever since you have been in office has been cameras in the state Senate, which you preside over. Tell us about that issue and why aren't there cameras in the state Senate?
Well, we're one of only two legislative bodies in the country that do not live stream their proceedings. So think about that. One or two. It's a race to the bottom. Will we be the last? And the Missouri House of Representatives on the other side of the Capitol live stream its proceedings.
Right.
So the Missouri Senate is one of two legislative bodies in the country that does not live stream its proceedings. I've brought this up. One of the state senators brought it out on the floor a couple of weeks ago. Another state senator stood up, made a motion to table it, and that motion to table it or kick the can down the road, it was a 12-11 vote. to kick it down the road. At this time next year, I think we're going to have some turnover in the Senate. A lot of these old guard guys do not like change. They don't like transparency. They don't want live streaming. I think this time next year, we're probably going to have live streaming and transparency in the Missouri State Senate, which is going to lead to what Larry mentioned is I think it will lead to additional rule changes and making the Missouri Senate a more efficient, productive legislative body, because you Missourians sitting in Joplin or Springfield or Hannibal, my hometown of Hannibal, will be able to see the dysfunction that takes place in the Missouri Senate.
That's an excellent point. That's an excellent point. Now, I mean, if that's, I think, has kept them out all this time, because I don't want to be on camera and everyone see me vote or take this position when I can go out and talk to the print media later or an interview with TV, radio, and I can massage it as opposed to what I actually did on the floor.
Larry, can I give you an example of what happened last
week? Please do.
So last week, they bring out, and this is done every day, is the minutes, or what's called the Senate Journal, is approved from the prior day. So a senator makes a motion to approve the, journal, which should take 15 seconds, 30 seconds. You make a motion, it's approved. And I say this, last week, the journal read President Wasinger presiding. The senator objected and said, no, it should say President David Wasinger presiding. They debated that for 4 hours on the Senate floor.
4 hours?
I kid you not. 4 hours.
Wow.
They're not doing the job.
So think about that. I mean, would that happen in the real world, the private sector, if we had some transparency in the Missouri Senate? I don't think Missourians would put up with it.
What is the other state, by the way? I'm drawing a blank there.
North Carolina.
That in a way surprises me, North Carolina. Now, are you talking about
I'm not sure what the backstory is there.
Are you talking about just the Senate or their entire legislature?
I think it may just be the Senate. I'm not sure. It could be the entire state legislature in North Carolina. I'm not sure. But we looked at more of the Senate bodies, and I know North Carolina is the only senatorial body that does not live stream.
What's the backstory?
I'm not sure what the backstory in North Carolina is. The story we hear in the Missouri Senate, it's cost. Well, the Missouri House does it. And, in COVID, you could have a church and live streaming, for $18. You'd put a little camera up. That's one argument, which I think is not a valid one. The other one is they'll argue that senators being grandstanding.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the odd thing is the Missouri Senate already has cameras in the Senate chamber. They don't live stream, but the only person allowed to retrieve that video is the senator who's being filmed. So if he's looking good, he will retrieve that video, put it all over social media, fundraise off it, and get all that. So you already have the camera in the courtroom. If he's looking bad, you cannot retrieve that video unless you go through a bunch of steps, including sunshine requests, which are just a monumental hassle.
Lieutenant Governor, one of the phrases that is used in urban lingo to expose people is to put them out on blast. Let's put out on blast these senators that are in opposition to cameras in the Senate. Who are these folks?
Chris, that is such a great question. So we had I mentioned it was a 12-11 vote, and I'm up on the dais and I do a roll. Those in favor say aye, those opposed say nay. Well, so close I can't tell whether the ayes have it or the nays have it. So in order to do that, we want a standing division, where senators actually stand up and you count who's for it, and then they sit down and then you count who's against it. This is the craziest part of it is. So I told you have cameras in the courtroom, or not in the courtroom, in the chamber.
Yep.
So they're filming this. Somebody does make a sunshine request. They redact or black out the video when the senators begin standing. So you cannot tell who voted for it, who voted against it.
That's totally. It's a bait and switch with the public, and it absolutely
Isn't that crazy?
It is not the way it should be done.
Exactly.
And then the grandstanding happens. We know that, but that happens with the U.S. Senate and House as well, and we understand that. And it happens in courtrooms until the judge pounds the gavel and says, "Move on."
Yeah, and as I said, they're already grandstanding because they can retrieve the video and just put it on social media. So the cameras are already there, and if they look good, they'll just retrieve it and put it on social media. So the grandstanding is already taking place.
Lieutenant Governor, one of your roles as Lieutenant Governor is to be the state advocate for senior citizens. I know you've been very into that role. your mother and my father-in-law both are at the same senior citizen community center. Talk about what your office is doing to advocate for senior citizens.
We really are. By Missouri law, under statute, the Missouri Lieutenant Governor serves the official advocate for seniors. So last year we did a Protect Our Seniors tour where we went across the state and did a listening tour to see what people, and I'll tell you the heartbreaking stories you hear about the abuse that may take place. It may be within a nursing home. It could be at home where somebody's being taken advantage of financially. It got so much traction, the Missouri Attorney General began participating and getting involved in it because the litany of issues that can take place when you're a senior is just, it runs across the board. By the way, I was down at that home. I think I saw your wife, Chris, sitting out on the bench as I was walking out at Easter. I don't know if she told you that. I went down to visit my mom for Easter, and I walked out, and your wife is sitting there. I don't know who she was waiting for you or
yeah, she was waiting for me.
She was waiting for her. Okay, well there you go. I saw her. I said I'll talk to her for a little bit.
Excellent. Larry, you got any further questions?
Well, I'm glad to see that you are going to push the cameras. And then it's kind of the attitude in the business, the news business. Anytime a story comes out that might raise some issues, they always say, well, let's take it to the lawyers. And I say, no, because the lawyers are always going to say, we're going to advise you against you doing it. So the story never gets told.
Yeah. You know, there's going to be a lot of turnover in the Senate this year. So if your listeners or you see people or you interview these potential senators, please ask them what the position is on that. Because if they say they don't want live streaming or they want cameras, it's probably somebody you don't want to have in the Senate.
Lieutenant Governor, one of your other roles as Lieutenant Governor is to promote tourism and economic initiatives. Tell us what your office is working on.
This may be the biggest tourism year in the history of the state of Missouri for a number of reasons. One, we have the World Cup coming to Kansas City in about 3 weeks. So we will, Kansas City has landed as base camps where they'll be training for 30 days, 3 of the top 10 FIFA soccer teams in the world. We have England, we have Argentina with Messi, the famous soccer player that won the World Cup last time, and then we have the Netherlands. So that'll be coming in. That's going to draw, we believe, tourists from all over. We have the 100th anniversary of Route 66. I just did the kickoff on April 30th down in Springfield, which is deemed the mother. There was a telegraph sent naming Route 66 from Springfield, Missouri. So we just did a huge kickoff. Springfield really, really did a good job. So all these international tourists are going to be traveling down Route 66 from St. Louis down to Joplin. And then, of course, we have the 250th anniversary of America. So you're going to see pop-up celebrations taking place throughout the state of Missouri in these small towns and big towns. I think St. Louis is going to have a big event. And lastly, I'm from Hannibal, so Tom Sawyer, the 150th anniversary of Tom Sawyer is being celebrated this year. And we also had the 150th anniversary of Budweiser on Sunday. They had a big celebration. Leonard Skinner was down at the brewery on Sunday.
That's right. Sunday. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got a lot of great things taking place on a tour. Going to be very, very, very busy. It may be the biggest tourist season we've ever had in Missouri.
Were they giving away free beer?
I got a free beer. I did drink a cold Budweiser. I did grab one.
Did you declare, sir, I must.
One out of a bin.
No,
I had one, so and I didn't pay for it.
All right, sir. That's what I'm going to push you. You must declare that you got a free beer.
I blame it on my son. He went over and retrieved it. He had come in for graduation, and he had come in. So I'll blame it on my son.
That's great.
We had a cold Budweiser down and listened to little Leonard Skinner. It was great.
Excellent. That's David Wasinger. He, of course, is the Lieutenant Governor of Missouri on X. He's at David Wasinger. And what is your official office website, sir?
You can just Google Missouri Lieutenant Governor David Wasinger, and it'll pop up. And then we also are on Facebook, where you can just type in Lieutenant Governor David Wasinger, or you just type in my name, one S in Wasinger, Wasinger.
And only one R. It's not Washington.
Only one R.
David, Lieutenant Governor, thank you for your time, sir, and we look forward to speaking with you again in the very near future.
Always a pleasure. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir. 5:43. Larry, it's almost over. It goes too quickly.
It always does, doesn't it?
This has been a great honor, as I've been telling you during the breaks, to have you sit in with us. We have one more segment left, but you're not finished because, of course, your show is after ours. And I may talk to you about what the hell are spud nuts.
Oh, that's a good question.
You're listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Partly to mostly cloudy skies and cool again overnight with low down to 55 degrees. We're staying dry, though, despite mostly cloudy skies. Kind of broken clouds. There'll be some peaks of sun at times on Thursday. It won't be overcast, but a high of 71 degrees, just a touch warmer. And then Friday's the day we get into a chance of showers. Late morning through the afternoon to early evening, a chance for some scattered rain, about a 60% chance with a high of 69 for a cool day. It warms up as we head into the weekend with a chance for a few showers and storms at times over your Memorial Day weekend, but highs near 80. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
The Vic Porcelli Show.
President Trump has worked out a $1.776 billion, 1776, get it, anti-weaponization fund. We're going to talk to Kaylin Deese from the Washington Examiner all about that Thursday at 9:41.
Weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
Hey, my wife Becky and I, we recently discovered a place that has quickly become one of our new favorite restaurants, and I've got to tell you how we found it. Royal Bank's CEO, Mitch Baden, who we just had on, actually introduced me to Timothy's. He took me there to lunch a few months ago, and after that first visit, Becky and I went back together, and now it's one of our favorite places to go. If you haven't been yet, you need to check it out. The atmosphere and ambiance are terrific. It's one of those places where you can relax, enjoy a great meal, and just slow down for a while. Becky absolutely loved the lobster pot pie. I loved the steak tip pasta. Everything we've tried has been outstanding. Timothy's is led by executive chef Will Mabry and features contemporary American cuisine with a touch of Southern charm. Larry Connors probably likes that. Dishes like pastrami, smoked lamb, shrimp and grits, and incredible house-made desserts like carrot cake fritters with cream icing. I'm getting hungry just talking about it. And if you're a wine lover like my wife, you'll appreciate this. They have over 500 wines to choose from. Timothy's is open 7 nights a week for dinner, plus lunch and brunch, and it's also a great place if you're planning a private event or gathering. Check them out at Timothy's, 12710 Olive Boulevard in the Belle Reve Plaza in Creve Coeur, or online at timothysSDL.com. And when you get there, tell them Chris Arps sent you.
Is your portfolio prepared for the biggest risks facing investors today? Hi, it's Tim Jones. High inflation and a rapidly changing economy may impact your investments. If you haven't made appropriate changes, your portfolio may not be positioned to address some of the biggest risks in today's economy. That means it's time to request your free portfolio review from the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. You can hear their latest views on the markets and investing during On the Money, hosted by Stifel financial advisors Bob Stockdale and Eric Robert, every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. on News Talk STL 101.9. They can help you get organized, guide you through critical retirement decisions, and create a portfolio designed around your needs. To schedule your free portfolio review, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com, 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas & Company, Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
Spring has sprung at Daniel's Farming Greenhouses on Joggerman and St. Peters. Discover our breathtaking 55,000 square feet of greenhouses featuring 8,000 hanging baskets, hundreds of perennials, and 100,000 pods of colorful annuals. From vegetable plants to premium grass seed, mulch to herbs, our knowledgeable staff is ready to answer all your questions. Start spring off right with pansies, potted tulips, and everything your garden craves. Daniel's Farming Greenhouses. Visit us today on Joggerman or online at danielsfarmandgreenhouses.com.
There's something magical about walking into your backyard and knowing your family is completely safe and secure. Hi, I'm Sean Long, owner of STL Fenceworks. That's the feeling my team and I have been creating for metro area families for more than 50 years. Whether you're adding your first fence or finally creating the outdoor sanctuary you've always wanted, we We offer premium vinyl and stunning ornamental options, all designed around your family's specific needs and lifestyle. While other companies struggle with supply delays and rising costs, we've always proudly used all American-made materials, which means better pricing and faster installation for you. Our experienced craftsmen exemplify our motto, your satisfaction is our passion. From Warrenton to Wildwood, your neighbors trust us because we live here too. And we care about your project as much as you do. Right now is the golden time to build with flexible financing options and a commitment to completing your fence on time and on budget. Visit stlfenceworks.com.
You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Today, we are announcing an indictment charging Raul Castro and several others with conspiracy to kill U.S. nationals on February 24th, 1996. 2 civilian aircraft operated by Brothers to the Rescue were shot down over international waters by military aircraft from Cuba. 4 men were killed.
5:50 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. Larry Connor sitting in for Tim. Larry, I don't know about you, but I'm getting a little deja vu here. Wasn't there something about a dictator in South America indicted?
And then we use that as an excuse to go in and get him. I don't think there's any value to grabbing Raul at his age. This case, going back to 1996, it did involve 3 civilian planes flown by the brothers supporting Cuba and against Castro. To me, I had never seen definitive word that they were still over international water. Cuba was saying they were in their space. Now, if they entered their space, you know that they will take them down, whether they're armed or not. And I would have to say Cuba has a right to do that at that point. Generally, you're going to, give them a warning and try to push them out, but they knew they were going to be distributing thousands of leaflets all over the island, pushing to overthrow Castro, so that was the intent.
Larry, you remember the Cuban Missile Crisis. I was not around yet, but that was all centered around Russia trying to put ballistic missiles 90 miles off of our coast. Give me your thoughts on this report that Cuba has acquired hundreds of drones that could possibly attack the United States.
I raised that word the other day as well. How many is unclear, but on the minimum base that these could go 300 miles, probably up to 900 miles, well into our nation. And if they're just dropping them into different places without munitions on board, still could cause catastrophe. They're already in there now, and that's the issue. I think at some point we're going to have to take some action against it. You cannot have them sitting just 90 miles off our shore. For those who have been down to the Keys, and you stand at the southern point of our nation in the Keys, there's a marker that says just that direction, 90 miles, is Cuba. Communist Cuba, basically.
What would you say to people who would say, yes, this is a threat with them having military drones 90 miles from our shore, but this would be political and economic suicide for Cuba if they ever launched an attack, or if China or Russia or whoever has these drones on Cuba launched an attack on us? It would be the end of them.
Yeah, it would. And you got to keep in mind, the Cuban people, for the most part, they're just like the Iranians. They want a freedom, liberty that they don't have. And they would like to see a regime change. And again, I'm not into nation building, nor should we do it with Iran, but we're looking at who can we deal with in Iran that would supposedly be stable enough. And the first piece on every proposal that we give them, you cannot have a nuclear weapon. I don't understand yet as to why they don't understand that is that simple. Well, we know why, because they want to continue to have that. Now you've got this issue with Cuba. If we had known right now that they were bringing a shipload of drones in, would we have had a standoff as we did with the Cuban Missile Crisis? I think we could have.
Yeah. Our Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, of course, is Cuban. Yesterday, he shared a 5-minute video of him speaking entirely in Spanish to the Cuban people, who said the administration is offering $100 million in food and medicine for Cuba, but he said it needs to be distributed by the Catholic Church or another trusted charitable group. I talked about this last week with our military expert, is that the Navy and the Air Force are creeping up their surveillance of Cuba. I just read the other day that they are having demonstrations in Cuba again because of the shortages. Do you see the United States here in the next month or weeks conducting an operation there?
From much of the word that's come out of there has been that they're down to 4 hours of power a day, basically. Now, those are the elite, they're getting everything they need. And Gordon Chain had pointed out with the China listening posts they have put into Cuba, they're already deeply invading our nation and our telecommunications, be it corporate, private, or military. So we've got to continue to monitor and take some action at some point.
Larry, we know that you dabble in this radio business and in TV, but you're really a professional gambler. You're very good at
no.
Aren't you a professional poker player?
No. Otherwise, I could write everything off.
I want to get your thoughts on these prediction markets. Minnesota was the first state to ban prediction markets. We're seeing these prediction markets where people that kind of have inside information, people that are in the military are playing in the prediction markets and winning hundreds of thousands of dollars when they know that an invasion or something is coming. There's also reports that people that work in the White House and campaign aides are playing in the prediction markets, and if a certain poll comes out, they know the information already and they are playing. What's your thoughts as a professional poker player on prediction markets?
Well, first of all, CBS 60 Minutes did a good piece on this the other day and pointing out that, we do have a military man currently indicted on such charges.
You made a lot of money.
Yeah, a lot of money. But, I can start a poker game, and if you're familiar with poker at all, if you have pocket aces, you're starting with the best hand possible.
Yeah.
But I could play a 2-3, what they call a dirty diaper, a 3-year-old with a deuce in their diaper, basically.
I've never heard that one, but
okay. And you have that against my aces, and I'm put a good bet in. Well, you decide, what the heck, I'll go along and see what happens. And then 2 threes hit the board. That doesn't look bad to me.
Yeah.
You now have 3 threes against my aces, and if nothing else changes, I lose. Are you at the opportunity for a straight or a flush that I can't cover?
Yeah.
So you can start with the very best hand, and you still will not win. Sometimes it gets into what you can make of your opponent, and you play the opponent as opposed to the cards. So when you're trying to predict something, you got to decide, if I put a bluff in here, not that I ever bluff.
No, you never
bluff. No, I never bluff. I misread my cards. But if you put a bluff in, are they going to fold or are they going to come over the top of me?
Yeah.
And then I've lost even more chips.
Larry, I was very curious yesterday. I didn't get a chance to listen to you on the way home, but your story behind the story was you were selling spud nuts. What the hell are spud nuts?
Spud nuts are actually also available in the St. Louis area.
Are they really?
Yeah, but this came out of the 40s.
Can I go to Dearborn's and get spud nuts?
No, I don't know if you can. There are some local shops that do, but they basically started in the 40s using potato flour instead of wheat flour, and they're not any more nutritious or anything else. Also pointed out that that's behind that story is also the cops and donuts, adjusting at cops. There was a reason that police officers, cops, were often at the donut shops because they got free coffee and donuts, and there were very few. We didn't have 24-hour places for them to stop and get something to eat.
Well, that's Larry Connors, USA. If you want to hear more, his story behind the story next is the Joplin Tornado. Listen to Larry Connors, USA, right after this show. You've been listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL. Drive safe and have a great evening.
It's Susan Moore. If new flooring makes you think hassle, think again, because Michael's Flooring is changing the game. For over 30 years, Michael's has been locally owned and trusted for quality, variety, and amazing